I'm 106 years old now, and I didn't understand what happiness actually was until there was almost no one left to share it with. I'm not saying that to be dramatic at this age. There isn't much energy left for drama. I'm saying it because it's the kind of truth that only shows up after most of your life has already happened, and by then it's too late to rearrange anything. These days, mornings come quietly, not because the world is peaceful, but because there are fewer people left who expect anything from me. The phone doesn't ring the way it used to. No one needs a ride. No one is waiting for me to finish work and come home. There's just the sound of the kettle and the clock and sometimes the wind pushing against the window like it's trying to get in. It wasn't always like this when I was young. Happiness meant getting somewhere. That's the word we used. Somewhere, a better job than the one you had last year, a better house than the one you grew up in. Something that proved you were moving forward. I thought happiness was waiting for me and whatever came next. So I did what everyone else was doing. I worked in an office where the lights buzzed faintly overhead and the air always smelled like paper. The kind of place where you could spend 10 years and still feel like you'd only just arrived. I wasn't miserable there. That's important to say. I believed in what I was doing. I believed that if I stayed late, it meant I cared. If I didn't take holidays, it meant I was responsible. If I came home too tired to talk, it meant I was providing. That was how love worked, as far as I understood it. My wife didn't complain much in those days. She'd ask sometimes if I could leave early on a Friday or take a day off when the children were out of school. I'd say maybe next week. There was always a next week when my son was small. He used to wait by the door in the evenings. I remember seeing him through the front window one night, still wearing his shoes, holding something in his hand. He wanted to show me a drawing. I think I had paperwork to finish after dinner. So I told him we'd look at it later. He said okay. Children usually do. I don't remember ever seeing that drawing. Things didn't fall apart back then. That's the part no one tells you. There was no big fight. No moment where everything cracked open and showed me what I was losing. It just happened slowly. In small decisions that felt harmless at the time, missing a school event because of a meeting, skipping a visit to my mother because the drive felt long after a full week, saying tomorrow so often it started to sound like a promise instead of a delay. We bought a bigger house eventually. I remember walking through the empty rooms before we moved in and thinking, this is it. This is what all the work was for. This is where we'll finally relax. But life doesn't pause just because you've reached a milestone. The children got older. They stopped waiting by the door. They started closing their own bedroom doors instead. My wife grew quieter. I thought she was just tired. When she suggested we take a trip somewhere, anywhere, I said we should wait until things settled down at work, that it would be more enjoyable if I wasn't distracted. I meant it. I didn't realize how often I was asking her to wait. She got sick when we were both in our 50s, nothing serious at first. Just small complaints that seemed like the kind of thing you could ignore for a while. I still went to work most days. I told myself we needed the routine, the income, the normalcy. Hospitals have a way of making time feel different. I started sitting beside her bed more often then, holding her hand, listening to machines breathe for her when she was too tired to do it herself. I told her we'd travel when she felt better, that we'd finally go to the places she used to circle in magazines. She nodded like she believed me. She died before the end of that year. There's a moment after someone leaves when the house becomes unfamiliar, the same furniture, the same pictures on the wall, but everything feels misplaced somehow. Her coat stayed on the hook for weeks. I couldn't move it. That was when I began to understand that happiness had never been waiting in the bigger house, or the next promotion, or the year when things finally slowed down. It had been sitting beside me at dinner when I chose to answer one more email. It had been in the drawing I said I'd look at later. In the visit to my mother I postponed because I was tired. In the trip my wife asked for and I said we'd take someday. I thought I was protecting our future by delaying our present, but the future arrived without her. There are things time takes that it never brings back. First laughs, last conversations, the chance to say something when it would have mattered most. I cannot hear her voice again asking me if I'll be home early. I cannot go back and sit beside my son while he explains his drawing. I cannot call my mother and tell her I'm on my way. Time does not circle back. Now my son calls me once a week. We talk about the weather, his grandchildren, the price of things. There's love there, I know that. But it's a quieter kind than what we might have had if I'd been around more when it was still forming. My daughter visits when she can. She brings groceries I didn't ask for. We sit together and talk about ordinary things because the important ones feel too heavy to lift between us. This isn't anyone's fault. It's just what happens when years are spent believing that happiness is something you schedule for later. If you're still in the middle of your life, in the years where everyone needs something from you, I won't tell you to change anything. I know how complicated it is. I only wish someone had told me that happiness rarely arrives in the places you're rushing toward. It shows up quietly at the dinner table in a child's drawing, in a question asked from the other room in a hand reaching for yours while you're still young enough to assume it will always be there. If this meant something to you, you can share it with someone you've been meaning to call. Not because it will fix the past, but because the present has a way of disappearing when you're not looking at it directly. I don't have many years left now. Some mornings I sit by the window and watch the light move across the floor. It does this every day. I just never noticed it before. It's a small thing, but it's real. And for a long time it was enough. I just didn't know it yet.